Friends, welcome back to Player Display. So today, as you can see, we have two more excellent additions to my horror shelf, both being from MEGO. And here we have the Killer Klowns from Outer Space, Shorty, and then we also have the Topps exclusive Grim Reaper, if I got that right. So it was my birthday just several weeks ago, and I had a little bit of birthday money to throw around, so I went ahead to the old, trusty, reliable Amazon. I saw these two guys, and I was like, yeah, it was pretty easy for each of them. First of all, friggin' Killer Klowns. I mean, they've released two other clowns in the line, which I do have, so obviously I need the Unholy Comedic Trilogy. And over here we have the Grim Reaper, not based on any particular IP, but from what I can gather, there are two variants of him. One with black robes, as we see here, then one with red robes. I purposefully did not want to get the red robed variant because it looked too similar to the Red Death Phantom I got, and also makes him look a little too much like the Misfits. So I wanted to get a character that is definitively death incarnate, which is why I went with the black robe variant, which I think might be more rare than the red one. I'm not really sure, but whatever, I found him, I wanted him, I got him, and here he is. So let's go ahead and start with one of our favorite tiny little clown characters. Aww. So unlike the last time we reviewed two entries from the MEGO catalog, I did not have the boxes on hand, but this time I do. Because the MEGO figures are rather simple, and they pretty much always use the same base body, that means there's a little less to discuss, so we're probably going to review them in batches of two. I don't know how often we'll be looking at MEGO figures, I'm very selective, but they're very fun to look at, and honestly, there's not a lot of reviews on them, so I figured, well, I'll go ahead and do it for you, right? But anyways, here's pretty much what every single MEGO box looks like. It's a very traditional blister board packaging. I was thinking of doing a straight up unboxing, but I mean, if you're at all familiar with the concept of an action figure, then you know what it takes to open it. Get a knife, flip it open, take it out, or just, rip the damn thing. So we got Shorty along with the Killer Klowns logo looking absolutely fresh. We got the MEGO logo, 8-inch action figure, which is accurate, 14 points of articulation. We got a big old picture of Shorty over there, and Michael Myers off to the corner. Hi. Off to the back, an even bigger image of our favorite tiny clown. My fridge is causing much the ruckus as we go ahead and push into that little backstory behind MEGO, as I've shown you before. And it's the same on literally every box. Now here we are with who is probably everyone's favorite clown from the absolutely ridiculous 1980s flick. I really love this guy. The two clowns they did before were really excellent, and this one continues all the things that are great about them, and then does a little bit more. So of course we have the really well sculpted head sculpt, very non-human. You can tell by looking at him, he's not just a human clown, there's something else going on here. You got the very exaggerated smile, the really crazy looking dome for a head, the very interesting looking profile with the elf-like ears. They got the big old tuft of hair at the top, along with it flaring a little bit out through the back. And I also really love what they did with the makeup. Really nice, vibrant colors, almost cotton candy looking eyes, which I really do love. I kind of like how the eye pupils are drooping a little bit off to the side. It makes him just a little bit more unnerving, as much as he is kind of adorable. Let's be honest here. And also one thing I found really interesting is that the head sculpt overall, it's not perfectly symmetrical, but overall it is. You notice here with the brow, this is one of its symmetrical aspects, but it does some asymmetry with the paint, and it actually makes this blue painted in eyebrow a little bit higher on the right. And if you go ahead and pull in the packaging once again, you can actually see that is accurate to the character. I think this is actually an artistic rendering, not a Photoshop of the actual character, but that's alright. But yeah, the proof's in the pudding. That is screen accurate. Also, big old little clown nose. Gotta love that. Going down, little blue vest, very simplistic. Again, it's MEGO, that's what they do, and that's why I love them oh so much. Going on down, we have this very beautiful and overcompensating gold clown suit with these very cheap looking star buttons. I really like those. I feel like they're just like party garnish, like you go to Olive Garden or something, you get parsley as a garnish. You go to a birthday party, then you get that just kind of splayed out all over the table. But I like it. It's kind of just sewn right in there. You can see there's a little bit of a green thread kind of pulling it into the gold. It feels pretty secure. It's a little bit loosey-goosey to the touch, but as long as you're not poking around it too much, I think it'll stay on pretty well. Off to the arms, I really love how crinkly they look, also making him a little bit more accurate to the film, whether it be intentional or not. But perhaps the best part about this figure are the two boxing gloves, obviously, from his most standout moment in the film, and perhaps the most shocking moment in the entire movie, where he literally knocks someone's block off. Especially when the other two clowns didn't come with any other accessories, this literally adds more punch to Shorty. Pun intended. Fuck it, sure. And these gloves are removable if you do want to go ahead and see his base hands, or maybe have him holding any custom accessories, because he comes with nothing else. But yeah, just the basic MEGO hands, but obviously he is working with a different base body, because he is, well, Shorty. He's a little dude. Going down, pretty much the gold just takes over all the way down to the ankles, but then he has some cute little baby blue shoes with some shoelaces. With MEGO, I think we're just going to skim through articulation pretty quick overall whenever we revisit the line, because it's all pretty much the same stuff, but pretty much the only limitation I could ever see us having whenever something varies is, I guess, in the head, but here that's definitely not the case. It's always just a swivel, the usual shoulders, pretty much. You got the elbow there. As for the wrist, obviously you're not going to have any articulations with the glove on. Take it off, and then you've got the usual hinge in and out and swivel. Legs are standard. Again, this is a different body mold than the rest, but I mean, it's got all the same movement. No rocker, unfortunately, but you still have back and up. I mean, it's MEGO. They all pretty much function the same way. Comes down to head sculpt, clothes, and the occasional accessories. Just fine. And that's pretty much it for Shorty, so let's hop right into the Grim Reaper. Again, not really an IP of any sort, it is simply just meant to be death incarnate, just what we picture when we think of the characterization of death, if he was a tangible thing, if it was a tangible thing, if death was a she, then I'll die now. Take me now, I'm ready to go, man. But I still like what they did with the packaging. Obviously, this doesn't relate to a movie, even though for some reason they give this the movie subtitle up there, but I really love this almost Spirit Halloween image that they have in the back. I think if you had the red variant, then obviously it'd be the same picture, just with red robes. I really do love the creative logo they have up here, Grim Reaper, dripping with a little bit of blood. You gotta love blood, right? Up to the back, you have the exact same image, pretty much same logos throughout, and then you have the same MEGO origin story at the bottom. And here we are with the Grim Reaper, or Death, or the end of the line, or I don't know, the last thing you see, the villain of Final Destination. There's so many names for this character. I don't know where that idea of having a skeleton in robes with a scythe comes from. I'm not sure what culture, but technically he is one of the things I've studied the most in college. I'm a philosophy major. I studied death quite a bit, especially since I was studying with Nietzsche. When you study Nietzsche, there's no escaping death. I so love this figure. I know he doesn't relate to a movie or a show or anything. He's simply just death incarnate, and that's it. But they did something with him. I don't know what it is. And again, it's MEGO. They aim for minimalism, but it works so well here. I don't know why. I just look at this head sculpt. Let's go. There's not a whole lot to talk about visually in terms of the little micro details, but let's just go ahead and look at the head sculpt as I ramble on a little bit about it. I don't know what it is. It feels very 90s, like retro video game to me. There's just something very nostalgic about it. I can't put my finger on what it is. He just has so much character. I like how it's not too perfectly sharp. You see, it's a little bit greasy on the teeth. The shape is purposefully off, and I really love that. It makes him feel very retro, very classy. It just does something. I don't think I have the words to describe how much I love this head sculpt. And another really cool thing is the eyes could have just been pits of black, which probably would have looked really cool, but you notice obviously there's a little tiny dot of silver to indicate a little bit of a pupil, but when you turn that up to the light, you see if I pull the hood back, they capture the light very well. It kind of shines out towards you. And you're like, yeah, that's a suitable perspective of the last thing we see before we reach our end. And go ahead and also pull the hood off. I actually haven't done this yet. And look at the full head sculpt. It's a little bit tight. All right, actually, you know what? There's a little bit of tension there, so I'm just going to leave it. But you see that the paint detail is kind of just a very basic wash going all the way back. It pretty much carries over to the back of the skull, so that's pretty cool too. I also like how with the hood you can kind of have it just over the eyes, or maybe you can have it kind of parting over, give him a Darth Sidious look. So there's a lot of different ways you can work with this hood to get the Grim Reaper that you prefer. Let's pan out a little bit as we look at the soft goods, because there are several layers actually going on here. So there's something that makes him feel very, I guess, pilgrim? I don't know. That makes sense. They had crops and they had plague. That's all they friggin' had. We first start off with this very nun-looking robe that we have on top. I don't know what you call this, like a little tiny superhero cape. Death can save us all. In a way, he does. I mean, when you really think about it, all our ills, all our worries, all our anxieties are taken away by death. Don't let that sink in. I've done that too many times myself. I'm going down to really just conventional robes, just straight up. Like if you've played with any Sith Lord action figure, it's just basic robes. Although there is some nice tattering all the way at the bottom here. Let's get to the one and only accessory for the moment. We'll come back to that. As you look at the hands and feet, they're all painted the exact same way as the head sculpt. You can see if you go a little closer to one of the hands, it's just this very cheaply done black gray wash, which again, cheapness sells these figures. That's what makes them work. They feel very retro. They feel like they came out of the 60s or 70s, and I oh so adore that. You see the exact same paint treatment down on the feet, of course, looking very dirty, not looking very skeletal, but it still works for me. And if you do want a better look at the rest of a MEGO-based body, then apparently this is the figure to go with, because you literally just pull everything up. That's what a MEGO figure looks like. And wow, you got some hams. But anyway, yeah, going down, you see that he's got paint pretty much going up to midway up the calf, and it kind of just stops there. But yeah, same gray wash, kind of just splattered on, drop the robes right back down, and then you wouldn't be the wiser, right? And that brings us to his one accessory, being the iconic scythe. It's literally just a black rod, and then you have some acrylic plastic for the blade up top. Part of me kind of wants to use those Krylon paints I've been throwing around and make this chrome. I feel like that would not only just make him stand out a little bit more, but also just give him a little bit more of that retro classy thing going on, you know? And also just to see the light glisten off and blind you as you die. I think that would look pretty cool. Let's take a trip over to the circus as we look at 4 other really awesome clown figures. So obviously we have the 2 other killer clowns we've gotten from MEGO. Over here we have Jumbo and Slim. Very different body molds for each of them. And really, that's what makes them all the better. You see that Jumbo's a little bit more on the hammy side. And then we got Slim, who's a little bit more, well, slim. And then you got Shorty to balance them out. And, God, if they do no more clowns, I'm happy with just these 3 together. They look so fun. Although it would have been nice if the other 2 came with accessories. Like, Jumbo should have had the hammer, and I believe it was Slim who had the hand puppets, and then the cotton candy ray gun. So it would have been cool to see those. But then again, I kind of like creating my own retro style accessories for my MEGO figures. I'll show you an example of that when we go ahead and look at the Grim Reaper once again. But as for a few bonuses, I also threw in NECA's Pennywise, the Tim Curry variant from the It miniseries, who looks also actually pretty well scaled with these guys. Especially since they're aliens. They're supposed to be a little bit oversized and everything. So even though they are 8-inch scale and NECA is 7-inch, they kind of work together. And then over here, he's a little bit taller than he should be because of the figure stand. But we have the Dynamic Action Heroes Joker, the Jack Nicholson variant from '89. I figure I still haven't reviewed. I apologize for that. I don't know. When I do reviews, I kind of want to look at figures which predominantly aren't a lot of reviews of, if you know what I mean. And I feel like Joker's kind of been done to death. He's an excellent figure and all. I just haven't gotten to him. But if you'd like me to push him forward, let me know. Same goes for Ahab Predator. Same goes for the Sewer Alien. Same goes for the Hia Super Predators from Predators. There's such a backlog. But if there's any figures you really want me to look at, let me know. Even if it's just a figure to pull out of one of these size comparisons. Now, I had to get a little bit creative with size comparisons for the Grim Reaper, so I just opted to get as many characters with death in the name as I could. Over here, we have a figure we actually looked at recently, being the Red Death variant of the Phantom of the Opera. And as you can see here, I did finally make a custom cane for him. This is literally just a Bandai sprue with a spray-painted skull from, the Vitruvian hack skeletons, I believe. I don't recommend them, they kind of fall apart in your hands, but hey, they result in some nice custom fodder for your MEGO figures, apparently. I just sprayed the painted that with some Krylon white, and there you go, you got a pretty retro looking skull, looking pretty nice. And now we got two deaths, both with a staff weapon of some sort. Then over here we have my custom Death Trooper from Legends Star Wars. And just for the fun of it, we have someone who does not fear the Reaper, being the NECA post-Rob Zombie Halloween trilogy Michael Myers. There's so many movies now. And then over here we have probably the oldest figure I've pulled out for size comparisons from the 90s or early 2000s. This is the branded Puppet Master Dr. Death in his Mortician variant, also with a black and white scale, very similar to the Grim Reaper we have over here, so I thought they looked pretty cool together. Obviously out of scale though. I know that these size comparisons have been a little bit off the wall, and that's really just because both of these figures are trying to accomplish something totally different from each other, but we can at least wrap up with some mainstays. Over here we have my bendy figure of Voldemort, now Robless, and then over here, you know, Star Wars Black Series Muck Muck.
You know what? I've survived predators, werewolves, and gremlins on this channel. There's nothing else you can send my way that's going to possibly ever kill me. Oh, shit!
Ooh, you know, this is some thumbnail material. I might work with this after. But anyways, that's going to wrap up this little review on two really excellent MEGO figures. For Grim Reaper, oh man, I don't know, he's really scratching an itch I've had for years. I've always wanted just an action figure that is death. Like, not from any particular movie or anything, just the Grim Reaper as we think of him. And this is not what I was expecting, but he is better, actually. I'll be honest with you. I really love the creative license that they took, especially with a character who's pretty simplistic in design as we picture him. It's usually just skull, robes, scythe, and that's pretty much the end of the story. But they did something with the head sculpt that makes him feel very retro and nostalgic and video game-y. I don't know how else to describe it. He's just very well executed and very dumbed down in the best way possible. I love this figure. I'm going to be fiddling with him a lot, just as a fidget. I really like him. Perfect fidget material. That's probably the way to describe MEGO figures. And then over here we have Shorty, and I love this pose that I put him in. Obviously, he's probably the face of the Killer Klowns from Outer Space movie, and this figure does him absolute justice. And even though these figures are meant to be more retro restylizings of certain characters, the Killer Klowns actually look pretty accurate to the on-screen depictions overall. Especially when you have the more dysmorphic heads, the really over-the-top garments, and then in the case of Shorty, some really big old accessories to boot and to hide the stock hands that they all come with. I love these figures. I'm glad I've had the chance to review them. There's not a whole lot of reviews on MEGO figures overall, just from what I've seen. Don't worry, the Grim Reaper figure isn't cursed, he just fell over and had to repose them. But yeah, that's about a wrap. I don't plan on reviewing a whole ton of MEGO figures, but I definitely love giving them their moment to shine, because they really do deserve it. MEGO just has a very interesting mission in taking very complex characters, or in the case of the Grim Reaper, a character who isn't affiliated with any film or source material much at all, and re-stylizing them in a way that's retro, but also invokes the nostalgia itch, you know? And both of them do that tenfold. All of them really accomplish that. They're just such a delight. They're very charming and just really nice in the hands. I don't know, they kind of just take you back a little bit. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this review and would like to see more, then please, as per usual, be sure to like, comment,
and subscribe.
or you'll never get a chance to try the company chocolates, and so much heart was put into them. Rock on, and I will see you all later. Got MEGO again, once again, down there, once again, again. And that's pretty much it for perhaps what is, by default, the most powerful character that you have on your shelf. Like, you got Thanos, you got, like, all these world-ending characters, but, yeah, it doesn't matter what their plan is, this is the dude that gets all the benefits when there's a whole bunch of people dying at once, right? Like, you gotta respect Death for how busy he must be, especially with our species, right? I mean, with drinking and driving and being at least one of the Paul brothers. And my voice ready for a review. Got some water. Oh shit.